to the Relentless CEO Podcast.
Relentless!
With Adam Kifer. Follow your path to success alongside icons and industry leaders in martial arts, fitness, and more. Let's go. This is the Relentless CEO Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Relentless CEO Podcast. Great to have you guys listening. As always, super appreciative of you turning in. We're talking about something that I've put a lot of thought into as a business coach in the martial arts industry, which is the 10 biggest reasons why martial arts schools fail. To all my listeners out there, you know by now that I never promote anything on this podcast, and that needs to change because there's a life-changing event coming up that every martial arts school needs to be at, and that's the 2024 Relentless Membership Summit. Every year we throw this event, we invest over $100,000 into bringing you the best speakers on the planet, having some of the best entertainment, and always securing one of the best venues possible. And this year is no different. We're bringing in one speaker that has over $100 million in sales and is the king of creating offers. His name is Jason Fladlien. You may know some of the people he's mentored, like Alex Hormozi and Russell Brunson and numerous other huge names in the marketing world that he has worked with. We have Brady Edwards coming to speak, who is the former video director for Mr. Beast. If you know anything about YouTube, you've heard the name Mr. Beast. He has over 245 million subscribers, and this is the guy that helped him grow his channel, that helped him plan all of those crazy videos, and he's going to be teaching how martial arts schools can get an unfair advantage when it comes to creating content for their schools. We also have industry staples like Dave Kovar, the teacher of teachers, Jody Tension, Kelly Murray, Jonathan Frank. We have Jesse Isaacs, who's a new speaker this year, and Jesse has 5 martial arts schools, multiple of them doing over $100,000 in revenue per month. He's coming to share his secrets of success with you. Guys, this is an event that you want to be at because you want to be around not only the amazing expert speakers we have, but other school owners that are there with the same drive and ambition that you have to grow their school, make a bigger impact, and build a legacy for their family. And for a limited time only, we have early bird tickets available. They're only $97. It is stupid how little we are charging for this event. I've even had people message me and say, Adam, is this the correct price? It is the correct price, but it's only going to be a limited time. So guys, as soon as August 1st is here, it's over. That goes back to regular prices, and you're going to be paying 5 times what the rates currently are at. Grab your ticket, relentlesssummit.com. Thank you guys for listening to my quick spiel. Now back onto the podcast. The whole point of this podcast came about just from having conversations with other industry leaders, from people running supply companies to other consultants, just to other even like software services in the industry. And one of the big questions I've been getting asked while I'm having these conversations with these people is, are you seeing a trend of more martial arts schools struggling and closing this year than previous years? And while we may not be seeing it specifically with our clients, I am seeing it across the industry, just with conversations with other school owners. They're talking about the school down the street closed, or they closed one of their locations, or franchises having to close some of their locations. And we are starting to see just overall throughout the industry, martial arts schools starting to close. And in these conversations, one of the ways that it tends to pivot is, well, what do we feel like is causing that? And what's happening with it? Well, I think it's super easy to blame failure on the economy. And it's super easy to blame failure on whoever the president is at the time of your business going under. But to me, in all the years that I've run businesses, which compared to some of you is only like a fraction, but in the years that I've been running businesses, the president, no matter what they put into office for policy, has not had an effect on my businesses. Okay, everything that's had an effect on my businesses negatively has mostly been from me, right? As the owner, making a decision that didn't work out, or testing something that didn't work, or hiring the wrong person, whatever it might be. Like, it always comes back to me. I find the more that we as business owners like to blame other things and other circumstances for why we're not performing like we should, the less control we have to correct the route that the ship is on and get the ship back on course. So these are 10 reasons why martial arts schools fail. These are from my own perspective. Number one, owners can't get out of their own way. Their own personal limitations become business limitations. If they're short-tempered in their home life, in their personal life, guess what tends to happen when something goes wrong in the business, right? They can't control the emotions. If they're disorganized with their personal life, they're usually disorganized with their business, okay? And a lot of times, owners don't have the self-awareness to be able to say, hey, I'm lacking these skills. I need to work on building these. Or I'm lacking this person in my business and I need this. Or maybe I've been stuck for too long because my mindset hasn't changed or grown or gotten better. And as a result of them not having personal growth, their business doesn't experience any growth. John Maxwell is someone who I've read a lot of his books, 5 Levels of Leadership. Like if I'm a level one leader, I can't grow level 5 leaders. There's no way I can grow level 5 leaders because I don't have self-leadership yet. I don't have self-discipline. I don't have consistency yet. So how can I teach someone else to be something that's 5 times better than what I am? Okay, and for you guys, if you've been stuck for a while, I just want you to be honest with yourself and ask yourself, what am I blaming for being stuck? Am I blaming myself, or am I putting it on other people, other things, other circumstances? Because the most successful business owners that I meet, both in and outside the industry, are also probably the ones that have the most ownership for when stuff isn't going right, okay? And the reason they're successful is because they own it and know that they can fix it as a result. Okay, number 2, lack of understanding metrics. I did a call recently with our CEO clients where the whole focus of the call was, how do we remove as many unknowns from our business as possible? The more unknowns you have in your business, the less clarity you have on decision making and the less clarity you have on finding out where the actual problems and holes in the business are. You have to know all of your numbers. You should be looking at your statistics daily, okay? So that way you can make decisions daily based on the numbers you're seeing. I think one of the problems is when people first learn their metrics, they learn them only monthly. But the problem with that is this, right? If we're in the month of July, okay, and I don't look at any of my stats for July until the end of the month, and that's all I know, I can't fix anything from now until the end of the month because I don't know what those numbers are and I don't know where we're lacking. Okay, every successful franchise I've seen and worked with, they all do daily statistic tracking. They want to see what the daily trends are. So if closing percentage is at 30% and it's the 7th of the month, guess what I'm doing? We're going to do some sales training with the team. We're going to get that closing percentage back up so we can finish the month stronger. Instead of letting them continue to close at 30% for the next 23 days and then fixing the problem at the end of the month. Okay? It's amazing. I'm not that smart as some people think. A lot of times it's just, I look at the numbers of the people that we work with and I can see things that they don't because I have a more intimate relationship with their numbers than they do, which that shouldn't be the case for any of your business coaches, right? You have to know these numbers. You have to know them on a daily basis. I've done tons of podcasts and YouTube trainings on what numbers you should be paying attention to. I'm not going to cover that now, but feel free to go through and look for that. Okay, number 3, biggest reason why martial arts schools fail, the owner is afraid of conflict. They're afraid of hard conversations. They're afraid of the difficult things in the business. Okay, but they're afraid of conflict. So what happens when you're afraid of conflict? Well, number 1, you don't actually call your team out when they're not doing what they're supposed to, when they're having a bad attitude, when they're showing up late. You just let it happen, and over time it continues to get worse and worse and worse until all of a sudden every other staff member is wondering why the heck that person is still on your team. And the reason it's because you allowed it, you permitted it, and you promoted it. Okay, when we allow those things to happen in our business, and the same thing is true with like toxic parents. Okay, when there's toxic parents that are just creating a terrible culture, that are arguing and complaining about things all the time, regardless of your actions. Okay, you let that grow on its own, and your culture creates itself, and it's not going to be a culture that you're happy with. You have to be willing to have hard conversations with your team, with parents at times if it's needed, and definitely with your students. You have to talk to your students when they're not hitting the standards, when they're not practicing like they should be, when they're not giving the effort that they should be. Any good coach is not afraid to call their athletes out on lack of effort, on lack of consistency, on lack of just caring. The more hard conversations we do, the better we get at them. Okay, and I've found this true for myself. I think it's one of the reasons that Johnny Tension is so successful. Him and I talk a lot about conversations that we have with parents and students and athletes in our own programs. And what we tend to find is that the respect is earned through these hard conversations. And I always think of it this way: if I don't care about you, I'm not going to tell you anything about when you're doing things wrong, when you're making a mistake, when you're doing something that I think is unethical, because I don't care about you. It doesn't bother me. When I care about you, I'm going to be direct with you, and I'm going to talk to you when you're not meeting standards, when I feel like you're letting yourself down, when I feel that you can be giving a better effort. I'm going to call those things out to you because I care about you, and I want to see you become the best version of yourself. So just think about it this way: if you care about your students, if you care about your parents, if you care about your staff, you're going to have these hard conversations with them because you know it's going to be good for them. Moving on. Number 4, this one's going to piss off some people and we're going to get some comments. Tradition has given them a rigid mindset. So one more time, tradition has given them a rigid mindset. You guys know that we teach very modern curriculum at Move, but that doesn't mean I'm against tradition. Okay, I'm not against traditional Shotokan or traditional Taekwondo or any of those things, teaching those things, okay? I might have a problem with you teaching like low block punch and saying that you can use it as knife defense. that I don't agree with. But traditional martial arts in general, I have nothing against that, all right? And we have a lot of clients that teach traditional martial arts, and they have great schools and they have great students. So there's nothing against that. But what tends to happen with a lot of people in our industry is that they get so involved with the tradition of their art that they get stuck in the tradition of the business from the same decade that their art was created in. Okay, they're still in the 1980s business mindset. And then their excuse for never growing is, well, I've been doing this for 30 years. I've been doing this for 20 years. But yeah, have you been making a community impact for 20 years? Have you been building a legacy for your family for 20 years? Have you been helping your employees to grow and be able to provide better for their families for the last 20 years? Okay, or are you stuck in a 20-year loop because you just have that rigid mindset that's not allowing you to grow or become flexible or to seek out new things to learn, to talk to new people, to look to other industries? We can't be rigid with our mindset. Taylor Welch had this great quote, which I'm probably going to mess up, but he said, you can't honor the ceiling that you're trying to break through. Okay, one more time. You can't honor the ceiling that you're trying to break through. Meaning if I'm trying to grow my business, I can't honor old and outdated business practices. I can't honor old and outdated mindsets where, and we'll get to the marketing side of this, where I'm not doing the marketing, I'm not learning business, I'm not understanding my finances, I'm not understanding how to be financially disciplined. I don't know how to put money to the side to invest into new ventures and new things. Okay, all of that comes from being flexible and open-minded with what you're doing. So if you are feeling like you're stuck in a loop, one of the first things that I'm going to recommend is just take a look at your mindset, and are you honoring the ceiling that you're trying to break through? Because you're not going to break through it if you're doing that. Okay, we have to break through that ceiling, throw the old ways out the window, okay, and start focusing on, well, what do I need to do differently to have different results? Next, they get too focused on money. I've seen this like wipe out almost industries. Okay, and here's how it usually happens. Some consultant or leader in the industry comes up with a way to get more money up front faster and then forget about fulfilling on the back end because there's no focus on that whatsoever. So what tends to happen is these people come in, they pay $3,000 up front, $4,000, $5,000, whatever, up front, and do a pay in full. And then they're promised all these things, and then the fulfillment just disappears at the end because you got their money. And I've heard consultants say this almost word for word is, doesn't matter when they quit if you get them to pay in full because you already got their money. They're not going to quit if they already paid you. While I understand the thought process, I think that is like the worst thought process and mindset to have if you want to be a service-based business. Because the whole part of being a service-based business is you are serving them, which the main part of serving your members, your students, and your athletes is the fulfillment and following through with that connection and rapport building and making sure that your retention is there because they love your program, they love your team, and they are seeing consistent results. It's not there just because they paid you a bunch of money and they feel stuck. Two totally different cultures come from that as well. As much as I absolutely love Alex Hormozi, I do think that he did a little bit of a disservice to the fitness industry. Okay, because we saw a lot of people doing this sort of bait and switch 6-week challenge, and I Love Kickboxing included. And I was actually there at I Love Kickboxing, and I'll be honest, I was one of the ones that helped implemented this challenge because it was the thing at the time and it was what the owners were asking for, right? But what happens with that is as soon as they find out it's not a free challenge, which is what is shown in the marketing, and they had to pay $250 or $500 to do it, and then it's only free if they lose 25 pounds or X percentage of body fat, okay? All of a sudden they feel like, wait a second, you advertise this as free, and now it's free with an asterisk. This isn't what we were promised. Okay, it's like when you're shopping for a car and the car looks beautiful in the pictures and you show up and there's like a family of raccoons living inside of it. Okay, it's not what was promised. And as a result, we saw those different companies doing this model get a ton of negative reviews, like having their back end attrition terrible. Okay, I know one specific fitness owner I can think of on the top of my head that was having a lifetime training span of 3 months for his average member, which means in 3 months they were canceling their membership. And it's because they weren't being ethical. They weren't being upfront about what they were doing. They were being too obsessed with all the money. And I've also seen in the martial arts industry, I don't even have to say who this consultant is because I know if you've been around at least since early 2000s in this industry, you're going to know who it is. But there was like a pay in full phase for the martial arts industry where it was all about get everyone to pay in full, call your people consistently, offer them discounts in their membership to cash them out. And what happened is our industry started getting a quick cash flow that they'd never seen before. Schools that were only doing $30,000 a month ended up getting $30,000 in a week from doing cash outs and pay in fulls. And for them, that money had not been seen before. And it started to become almost consuming for a lot of schools where we saw, I would guess hundreds of schools closed in the early 2000s because of this pay in full obsession and this cash out obsession that sort of went through the industry. And I hate to see it starting to come back again with these similar consultants coming back out of like the bushes and starting to teach this crap again because it devastated a ton of martial arts schools because there was no financial discipline from the school owners. And they were also being told, hey, you should buy these nice things. You should try and get an American Express Black card. You should go for the most expensive card. You want to dress for the income that you want to get. You want to look like you're already making the income that you want, which is like the Los Angeles Hollywood mentality of like, let's rent a super nice car for $800 a month when my salary is $3,000 a month. It makes no freaking sense. Okay, we can't be obsessed with money. Money is a tool. It is a byproduct of what we do and the service that we provide for our people. Should you pay attention to money? Absolutely. Should you focus on increasing your profit as much as possible? Absolutely. But while you are doing the right thing by your members, while you are providing an amazing service for your members, and you're doing the right things by them. Continuing on. They have never defined their culture. Do you have core values in your business? If you answered yes, can you tell me all these core values right now off the top of your head without having to go look at a piece of paper? No. Okay. If you can't, you don't have a culture. You don't have an engineered culture in your business. You don't have a strategic culture in your business. You have a culture that's created itself, good or bad. Okay. I like to be in control of the culture. I like to drive the culture with as much brand alignment as possible. Okay, and we've talked about a lot of different ways to do these in different videos. Watch the episode with Bijal as well. That will help. But when we're thinking about our culture, is it intentionally designed? Do we have systems in place that increases parent buy-in, that allows our parents and students to understand our purpose for why we even started this martial arts school in the business? Do they know the expectations we have for them? Do they know what our teaching principles are for our school so that the parents have a great understanding of why we do what we do. All of these things should be intentional and strategic in your business. Okay, even with your staff, does your staff know your core values? Do they show the behaviors that reinforce those core values? Because with culture, number one, it starts with you, of creating the culture, creating the core values, showing it and living it daily. So you can't create core values that you don't align with. Okay, and then how are you being a gold finder in the sense of pointing out when your team members are showing these great core values? Because once you lead by example and you start pointing it out to your team and talking about it and making it part of everything that you do, every conversation that you have, all of a sudden your team starts embracing those core values. And guess what happens? They start to use it in their conversations. They start to use it when they talk to your clients and your members and your students. And then what happens? That culture gets passed right down to your students. And you have this beautiful symmetry from the top all the way down through the bottom of your company because you have a strategic and intentional culture that you put into place. It only takes one person to make a culture toxic, right? Our pastor was talking this last week about in the Bible when leprosy was a thing, right? And when you are a leper, you were pretty much ostracized from civilization. Like you weren't allowed to touch anyone. You weren't allowed to go around anyone, and they would call you unclean. Okay, and that's what would happen. It only takes one unclean person to destroy culture in your business. It takes one toxic mindset. It takes one egocentric person. It takes one narcissist to completely destroy your culture. So we need to make sure that we're being intentional and not allowing that toxic growth to even have a chance to breathe within your business. All right, next. This drives me crazy, and I see it so often. The word of mouth marketing plan. That you might as well just tell us you don't have a marketing plan, and you have no idea what to do for marketing if your only plan is word of mouth. Here's the crazy thing. I don't think I've ever said this before. This is like I don't know. This is like one of the things I love doing, and I prove myself right almost 100% of the time. Anytime there's a martial arts Facebook group and someone goes in there, hey, I want to get new members. What's working for you guys for marketing? And I see someone comment word of mouth. I always go look at their school Facebook page and I always go look at their website and I Google them because most times they're like under 30 students and have been for years and years and years and years. So my thought process is, well, what is word of mouth marketing doing if you've been at the same student base for the last 20 years? Like, obviously, it's not doing anything. The most successful people in the martial arts industry, and when I mean successful, I'm going to talk about in the business sense, like financially successful, okay, for this specific topic, they don't have word of mouth marketing as their main thing. Do they have a referral program? Absolutely. Do they get referrals each month? Absolutely. But it is a strategic referral system that they have in place. It's not just like, oh yeah, people talk about us because we teach great classes. No. And in addition to that, they have 8, 9, 10 other things that they are also doing for marketing at the same time. You need to have a plan when it comes to marketing. The two most important parts of marketing for our industry, number one, is community-based marketing. It will never go away. A lot of us got away from it because of COVID. You have to be at every festival. You have to be at all the fairs. Go do the farmers markets. Get in the schools. You need to be out in your community as much as possible. Well, Adam, that sounds like hard work. You're running a business. Success isn't easy. If success was easy, everybody would be successful. You have to work hard. You have to go out and do that. Guys, like when I came to Arizona, there was no one else going out and doing community marketing at our school except me. And I didn't have a big team. All right. I had to go do the community marketing. The owner. Sometimes it has to be you. Sometimes you have to be the person going and doing that. Parent volunteers, even if you don't have a staff, find someone that can do it. At least go talk to people about your program. Because if they go to the booth and get one person to sign up, it's still better than not having a booth. Because you got a new member, you have more opportunities to get a referral. Okay, your mats look more full when people walk in. They have more confidence in your program. Okay, we can't hold on to word of mouth marketing. Okay, number 2, besides community-based impact marketing, is you have to be online. You have to have an established online presence, and that comes with paid marketing. That comes with making sure our website is looking great and working and operating. It has to do with creating brand awareness online. It has to do with our Google reviews, all of these things. If you don't have one or the other of these, you're going to get lucky maybe with one of them for a while until all of a sudden that stops. Like here's a great example of this. Pandemic happens, right? A lot of schools close. A lot of people get very close to closing. Do you guys know what saved us during the pandemic? Is because our online presence was so damn strong. As far as I know, and I might be wrong, we were one of the first schools doing strictly online trials and having success enrolling people from online trials. And I think a big reason of that is that the online presence was so strong up until the point of COVID that we didn't really have to pivot much. We lost community events, okay, definitely, but we were able just to take what we'd normally invest time, energy, money-wise in community events, put it into online, and just get a better yield on the results we were already getting during COVID. What happens if Facebook goes away? How are you still getting leads? Are you in the community doing that? What happens if all of a sudden the school that you're relying on for all your students signs an exclusive deal with a different martial arts school? Where are your students coming from? While these things might feel like they could be rare, you have to plan for everything. Okay, you guys have heard me talk about marketing's like a table. The more legs on the table, Michael probably used to talk about this all the time. This is where I got this analogy. The more legs on the table, the more sturdy your business is, which means if 2 marketing channels fail, you got 7 other legs on there. Guess what? Your table is still standing, and it's standing strong, right? Intentional marketing. Don't be the word of mouth martial arts school owner. Next one. They don't plan ahead. All right, here's one of the biggest differences I see with small business owners and let's say CEOs or high-level entrepreneurs. Most small business owners are focused on this month. They're focused on how do we make payroll this month? How do we pay the bills this month? How do we generate revenue this month? There's nothing wrong with focusing on everything I just said. But when it's the only thing you're focusing on and you're not focusing on next year, 3 years, 5 years, okay, it's almost like driving a car with your head down. All right? Like some of us know our destination from our school to home so well that we could probably drive it with our eyes closed. Okay? Because it's habit and we've done it over and over and over again. But when we do it with our head down, we're missing anything else that could come up. We're missing anything that might get in the way. We have to make sure that we're always thinking at least 3 years ahead in our business and really sitting down and writing down a plan of, hey, what do I want this business to look like in 3 years? What do I want the revenue to look like? What do I want my personal income to look like? Create a vivid vision for your business. Create a vivid vision for yourself and your family. Know what this looks like over the next 3 years so you guys can continually start moving towards that. I saw my dad passed away recently, and we were going through all of his pictures. And one of the things I noticed that I found is like the 1980s martial arts school that my dad had. And we're going to do a podcast comparing 1980s martial arts schools to current martial arts schools. So I found some awesome stuff from back in the day. And it's going to bless a bunch of myths too, because there's so many people in our industry that are like, I was the first one ever to do this. Like paid trials. My parents were doing paid trials like in the 80s. And we have a sign up in their window to show that. But the gist of it is going through and looking through that where they started and where they were able to take their business, and then seeing even photos from when I first started my business. I don't know if you guys know this, but when I first started Level Up, do you know where I was running Level Up out of? It was a combination of my dining room / office in my small little apartment, and then I would be working out of coffee shops, or there was a hotel down the street from my apartment, and when our internet speed sucked or I couldn't afford to pay the bill, guess what I did? I would drive over to the hotel. I would make really good friends with the bartender there, and he would go and get me the code for the Wi-Fi so that I could jump on the Wi-Fi. And I would literally sometimes work there till 3 or 4 in the morning in that hotel, so much so that I knew everyone that worked there on a first name basis from living there and doing it so often. But that's where I started, and to see it start there and where we've been able to take it, like it's pretty damn awesome. But that didn't happen without a plan. It didn't happen without putting things in place. Okay, we did our vivid vision last year on what the next 3 years are going to look like, and it's cool to see because some of the things we're very ahead on. Some of the things we're behind on because of the setbacks that happened earlier this year. But we're still have our eye on that vision and completing that 3-year plan regardless. And we know where we're going because we're being strategic and planning ahead. Right now, you should already have everything planned for this year. If you haven't, that's step one. If you have everything planned for this year, then what I would recommend doing is start looking at your metrics for January, February, March, and start planning out first quarter of 2025 based on those metrics. So if I had a low attrition month in January, we're probably going to do some things in January that focus more on promoting attendance to classes and member outreach and those things so we don't have that same problem again and we can continue our growth. Maybe we had a low enrollment month in February. Well, I'm going to go look back and see, well, what did we actually do marketing-wise that would have caused a low enrollment month? And then maybe I look and say, well, we had plenty of opportunities, but we just didn't close at a high percentage. So I might go back and put in my plan for January of next year that we are going to hit sales trading hard so we don't have the same issue in February of a low conversion. Like this is all about thinking ahead, okay? And this is how you continue to grow. I had a couple school owners actually in the last couple of weeks ask me some questions about Move and our student count and all that stuff. And they're like, how the heck are you only open since October and you have more students at your school than I do, and I've been open 8 years or 10 years or whatever it is. And it's not because I'm that much smarter. It's not because I'm better. It's just because I'm good at thinking ahead now, okay? And I've had to learn that over a year. And don't get me wrong, I still fall back into this month's problems. What are we going to do for this month and all that? It's a default mindset for me as an entrepreneur. But over the years, I've gotten way better about as soon as I'm doing that, pulling myself back and say, wait a second, this is going to help right now, but is this going to help me 5 years from now? Is it going to help me 3 years from now? Is it going to be in line with our vision? Okay, and doing that repeatedly and knowing the vision and checking myself on the vision is why we're able to continue to grow these companies. With everything that's happened this year, we're still up 25% from last year at this time. With everything that's happened. How does that happen? How do we survive that? And how do we grow through that? Well, it's because we're planning ahead. The initiatives that we had being executed during that whole time weren't planned that month. They were planned the year before. And that's why we're able to still move the needle in spite of all of that. Next, number 9, they don't work on their own personal development. Okay, we talked about at the beginning of this podcast about how your limitations, your personal limitations will also become your business limitations. Okay, if you think that making money is evil, guess what's going to happen in your business? It's not going to generate revenue. It's not going to grow because you're like, money, evil. Or if you think rich people are all jerks and that they're all rude and bad people, well, you're never going to accumulate wealth because you have this limiting belief that all people with money are bad people. It's rampant in our industry. It's rampant really everywhere. Like it's a thing. And then the media does anything that they can to try and paint anyone wealthy as like evil, bad people, terrible. The one thing they never talk about is how many jobs those people are giving our economy because of the wealth that they've accumulated and because of the businesses that they have. Okay, if Amazon shut down tomorrow, if Jeff Bezos was like screw this, I'm done, or the government shut down Jeff Bezos, how many hundreds of thousands of people are losing their job at Amazon all across the world? Like we don't hear about those things in the media. We don't hear about how they contribute to different charities, the work that they do. I had a family member recently tell another family member that I'm all about money. That was what they said. And this is a family member that I've been trying to help for years to try and help them with their own business. And they're like, Adam's all about the money. And luckily, this other family member they said this to, they're like, how much did you help charities last year? Because I know Adam has helped a lot of charities. And they're like, well, it's not about that. But it's like, well, if helping people is good, and you haven't helped people, and Adam has, and Adam's able to help people because of the money he's generated, like how is Adam bad because he has money or all about the money? Like that stuff doesn't make sense. Should you be all about the money? Absolutely not. Like we talked about earlier, but you should want to create the lifestyle that you want and that you want for your family. You should want to be able to create more revenue so you can help more people and you can be more of an influence on people. Like if you would have told me 10 years ago that I would have the ability to donate tens of thousands of dollars to charity, I wouldn't have believed it. I wouldn't have thought it would have ever been something that I would have been able to do. Okay. And the fact that we're able to do those things now is awesome. Like one of my wife and our favorite thing to do is once a month when we go out to dinner, we will tip whatever 50% of the bill is to the waiter. It has got to be a good waiter or waitress. Like they have to actually like be doing well with what they're doing in their service. But we like to give them a big tip and just make their day. And we wouldn't be able to do that if we weren't generating revenue. If we weren't able to make money and keep money, we wouldn't be able to do those things. And being able to make someone's day or being able to help a great cause, it feels good. It feels like all the work that you've been doing is actually making a difference because you're helping people and you're making a difference in other people's lives. So I think you guys need to make sure that we're not putting our limiting beliefs on our business. And the way that you break limiting beliefs is you work on personal development. You're reading books. You're listening to podcasts. You're surrounding yourself by people smarter than you or surrounding yourself with people that you want to be like and that you want to emulate. Okay, when I look for mentors, I'm not trying to find the richest person. That's not what I'm looking for. Like I think Taylor is probably one of the best examples I can show of this. Taylor, if you follow him at all, has he had massive success in business? Yes. Did he do a great job not only generating money and keeping money? Absolutely. Does his values align with mine? Absolutely. Okay, I'm a person of faith. He is a person of faith. He openly talks about it constantly. I'm getting the confidence to talk about it more often now. When I see him faced with two decisions, and this one makes us a crap ton of money, but isn't very ethical. This one makes us not as much money, but is ethical. There's no doubt in my mind that Taylor's always going to pick the ethical way, even if it generates less money. Like he's just a good dude. He's a good person. Okay. And he's authentic and transparent. This should be like a testimonial podcast for Taylor at this point. But the reason I'm saying all of these things is number one, they're true, but also all of those things align with my values. The other thing I love about him is he's a family first person. Yes, he puts a lot of energy into his business and a lot of time into his business. But like when we booked Taylor for the summit last year, he's like, I can only speak on Friday because Saturdays are for family. And I respected that. I think that's awesome. Like he has part of his core values is Saturdays is family time. And as cool as it might be to speak at an event, he's stuck to his values. And I love that about him. And that's why I think he aligns so well with me for being a business mentor and a coach. When you guys are trying to break out of those beliefs, if you're finding a mentor, just make sure you're not just basing off how much money they make. Okay? Because I've seen mentors, consultants, not just in our industry, but every industry that put up this online social media front like they have all this money, and then you meet them in person or you go to their business or you see where they live, and like it's not the reality that they're putting online. It's different. All right. So when you're choosing, just make sure they line up with your values. But you guys got to constantly be working on your personal development. You have to level up yourself so that you can level up the people below you. Last, number 10, they don't lead by example. Okay. The school owners do not lead by example. This is so easy to do for a fitness metaphor, but like martial arts, for some reason, people don't link it up the same. If I start a fitness facility, okay, and let's say my big selling point is we're going to help you lose weight, we're going to help you get in the best shape of your life, and you're going to feel better than you've ever felt before. But I'm an alcoholic and I'm 150 pounds overweight. And I'm the person that's telling every new client that comes in that they're going to feel like the best they've ever felt. They're going to be in the best shape of their life. Like there's a direct contradiction to what I'm telling them we're going to provide and how I'm living my life if that is the situation. Okay. And people pick up on that. Like if they're not going to follow you if you're not the one leading the way that you're telling them to be as a person. In the martial arts industry, we tell our students to practice. How often are you training? As the owner of your school, how often are you training? I rarely even teach classes anymore. Like, it is literally rare. I'm actually wanting to teach classes, where I was in there last night and I couldn't like step away from the mat because I kept just wanting to go out on the mat and teach and do that again. So they'll see me in there a little bit more now, but I don't teach, but I still train at least 4 times a week. Sorry, I had to think for a second because I do Thursdays twice. I still train in martial arts 4 times a week, every single week. Okay, because I want to get better. And I train with people better than me, not just with my own staff. Okay, because I want them to push me. I want them to humble me. And I want to learn. I want to keep growing my own skills, and I want to keep getting better. So for you guys, are you training regularly? Are you pushing yourself when you train? And are you training with people better than you? So important. A lot of us become like the king of our own country in a sense, where like we train to the point where we might be able to beat our own students, like in sparring or something, or we may have to outperform them with forms or whatever it might be. And then we just settle with that as like, all right, we're good. I'm the best in my school. But the problem is, if your school isn't the best, when you go out somewhere else, it doesn't really matter if you're the best in your own school, right? Because someone else is going to humble you. And I've told a lot of stories about through my training where I thought I was the shit because I was a 5th degree black belt. And then I go do my jiu-jitsu training and get tapped out by a brown belt like 8 times in 30 seconds. And I'm like, well, that 5th degree black belt doesn't really mean much in this school, right? We have to hold ourselves accountable to that. If we're talking to our students about health, are we taking care of our own health? If we're talking to our students about accountability and taking ownership, are we taking accountability for our own actions? Are we taking ownership for what we're doing? Okay, we have to lead by example. Okay, and I get it. There's gonna be times when we fail at this because we're all human, and it's totally normal. But we have to at least show our students and our staff that we are constantly making an effort to grow and get better and learn from our mistakes as a result. It is okay to be human, but you guys need to make sure that we're constantly showing the effort that we're going to keep working at this and keep getting better and better and better. Okay, if I'm training with someone and I can tell they haven't trained in years, in my mind I'm starting to doubt what they're telling me, because I'm going to start to feel like it's outdated. It's going to start to contradict things that are newer and more modern and have more research and data behind them. We have to lead by example. If I'm talking to my staff, telling them that I want them to grow and I want them to read books, and I'm not reading books, like, what's the point? Most times, if I have a staff member that comes to me and they're like, hey, I'm having an issue with this, what's a good book I should read? And I've really not dived into a field where they're having that problem, I will usually say, let me think about this and get back to you. And then you know what I do is I go buy and overnight that book on Amazon, and I will read the book and see if it's something that would help them with whatever problem they're facing. And if it is, then I'm like, hey, I just read this book. This one will be perfect for you. I'm not recommending them books I've never read before, okay? We need to make sure that we are being the example setter in our business, for our team, for our athletes. And that's all I got, guys. Top 10 reasons why martial arts schools fail. Let's run through it one more time. 1, owners can't get out of their own way. 2, lack of understanding the metrics and KPIs in your business. 3, afraid to have hard conversations, afraid of conflict. 4, tradition has given them a rigid mindset. 5, they get too focused on money. You should be focused on money, but it shouldn't be the only thing. It shouldn't be your obsession. 6, they have never defined their culture. Their culture has defined itself. 7, they don't plan in advance. They don't plan ahead. 8, word of mouth marketing plan is their only marketing plan, which is not a plan. 9, they don't work on their own personal development. And 10, they don't lead by example. Hopefully this helped. I hope maybe this shed some light for all of us on like what numbers or which one of these things am I falling short on? Because I don't want to end up like the schools that are closing right now, right? I don't want to end up like all the schools that closed in the pandemic. So what do I need to change about my own behavior to make sure I don't end up like that, and that I can see consistent growth in our businesses? So we hope this helped, guys. And I got one last bonus one, so don't tune away yet. Bonus reason number 11. And this is a scientific fact that has never been proven. Please put a disclaimer on that. They've never gone to a Relentless membership summit. That's why they fail. That's why they go out of business, because they're not getting the most cutting edge tactics. They're not learning valuable insights from other industries. They're not networking with other martial arts schools that are more successful with them so that they can learn from them and get a shortcut to success through their experiences. You got to be there, guys. RelentlessSummit.com. Get your tickets now. We're almost at 100 tickets sold so far, which I know we'll get to our 300 goal in no time, and definitely have it by the time we get to the summit. It's going to be an awesome event. We have some great sponsors this year as well. We have great entertainment for you guys. And most importantly, I just want to be able to connect with you. If you're a listener to this podcast, come to this. Let's sit down. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about business. Let's talk about life. And let's just have a great weekend where we all level up and have fun together. So we'll see you guys at the summit, relentlesssummit.com. And in the meantime, remember to like, subscribe, share this episode if it was valuable for you, and we'll see you on the next episode.
We're unstoppable, to the top, we about to go. That CEO, I need to know the impact we about to grow. Competition comical, straight A1, we on the road. Money focus for the goal, tell them what they need to know. We unstoppable.